What's happening, YouTube? This is Robert, and this is video number 7 of my HTML series. In this video, we're going to discuss file paths and file structure so that you know how to access different web pages or different images across different files depending on where they're located in your structure. We're also going to do a deeper dive into head element and discuss metadata and tags. Let's roll right into file paths. So here I am in my browser, and in the past we've created our root folder, which holds our main HTML file, and it also holds another folder which is our image folder, and inside of that contains our YouTube header.png or whatever image that you want to create or use. Over here in firstpage.html, if I want to access my image, because we're already in the HTML project folder with this file, all we need to do is navigate down to our image folder and then open that up and choose which file we want to use. In this case, there's only one, YouTube header.png for me, and so I'm just going to use that one. So what I'll do in the body of my document is create an image tag. And in the alternative text, I'm just going to put developer design. So let's go image folder /file YouTube header.png. Let's save that and open it up in the browser. And here we are, we have our image inside of our browser. Now let's go ahead and close this file and move it. So what we can do is after we've closed it, we can right click and open the containing folder, and then we can move this first page.html into the image folder. As you can see, it also happened inside of the text editor. Now our root file is our HTML project and our image folder inside of that. And inside of that, we have firstpage.html and YouTube header.png. We still have image folder, which we're already inside of, so we don't actually need that. If we were to open this in the browser, it's going to show us the alternative text instead because we don't have the image linked correctly. To access this correctly, since we're already inside the image folder, we're going to simply delete the image folder, and all we're going to do is move to the file that we want since we're already in that folder. Refresh our page and we have our image. Let's open our containing folder, and what we'll do is we're going to keep the HTML inside of the image folder, but we're going to swap and pull this image and put it inside of HTML project. We have our image on the outside of the image folder and our HTML inside of it. Since we didn't change the location of the HTML, we're not going to have to close this window out and reopen a new window. It's still the same file path. Anytime you change the file path for your .html document, you're going to have to close this one and reopen the new one wherever you put it. So if we try and access YouTube header.png, that file is not in the same folder that we are. And so when we refresh our browser, we're going to get only the alternative text. In order to do that, we have to move out from the folder that we're in, and we need to go up one parent file and then access the file from there. How do we move from this folder to this folder? Pretty simple. We're going to put a double dot and / notation. And what that's going to do is take us from this folder out to this folder, and then we already have YouTube header.png. So now that we're in this folder, we find our file with YouTube header.png, save that, refresh our page, and there you have it. We have our image. Now, one other unique thing that we can do is we can create a path for our images regardless of where our HTML file is. So what I mean is we can create what's called a root path. It's just that /, and then we're going to go into the folder from our root path that contains our images, and then we're going to access the image that we want. So if I open up my file explorer, the root path is going to be my C drive on my computer. That's the absolute root path that is contained right here. And inside of my C drive, I've created a folder called images, and I have 3 different images in here, and the one that we want to access, the YouTube header.png, is also in there. When I save this page and refresh it, we get the exact same image. It's going to take a different path to get there, but it's still going to be there. Let's open in the containing folder and move this into our HTML project, and then we can move our PNG image back into our image folder. So now we have to close this because we've moved our HTML file. In our correct path, now we have our root, which is our C drive, and inside of that we have our images folder, and inside of that we have the image file that we're looking for. So let's go ahead and open this in a browser. as you can see, we still have our image. So far we've been discussing relative images, which takes us from the file that we're in and finds another file within our structure, within our computer, that allows us to pull up the page or the image or whatever link that we're looking for. And another way to do this is that we can use an absolute file path. And an absolute file path would simply be http://www.websitename.com, and it would say something like images my image.png or .jpeg or .svg, depending on what type of image that you're pulling up. And that website will hold the image that you're looking for, and you find the file. It's similar to finding our local file path, except for it's going to the server and then it's choosing which folder and which file based on the structure where you would know where that's at if you actually went to it. So if you had your own website up, you would type in your own website name, figure out which file that you've created your images in, and then ask for the file that you're seeking. Pretty straightforward. And that's it on file paths for the time being. It's pretty straightforward stuff. If you have any questions, of course, leave a comment and I'll try and answer those. Next, let's discuss the head element. The head element contains metadata, which is data about data, or in this case with the HTML data, it's data about the HTML document. Metadata is not displayed to users. It's not anything that you're going to see inside of the browser. It's just information or data for the browser to use to load up the page in the way that you want it loaded, or connect to other pages that you want connected. The tags inside of your head element include title, link, meta, base, and there's also a script tag and a style tag which relate to CSS and JavaScript, which we'll get into in later videos. First, let's go over the title tag. We've been over this once before. It defines a title inside of your browser tab. So in here we have my first page, and in the browser we see that it says my first page right up here. But when you add a page to the favorite, this is also the same page name that it's going to use in your favorites. So if I go up to my favorites and I add this to my bookmarks bar, now my first page, that's what's going to display. And I don't currently have this live, so it won't go to a search engine, but let's use Google as an example. Inside of Google, you can see google.com has their title name as Google, and then if you were to add this to your favorites as a bookmark bar, it would say Google there. And then if you search, it's also going to be what they use right up here as the title for your search. Next is a link tag. A link tag is used to link to external style sheets, CSS. It's going to carry a relationship attribute which specifies the relationship between the link and the source, and the href attribute which specifies the location or the URL of an external resource. So again, the link is going to deal with CSS. So when we type in link and press tab, it's automatically going to generate the relationship attribute with the style sheet value. It's very convenient because that's pretty much the only time we're going to use a link in my experience. The href acts just like the source attribute for the image in the way that we access the file. So if we created another HTML file or another CSS file, that href would point to where that file is within our file structure. Again, this is CSS, which we're going to get into in the near future, so I'm not going to go any deeper into the link tag just yet. The meta tag specifies character set, page description, keywords, author, page refresh, and viewport settings. So let's dive into some of those. The UTF-8 we've already discussed. This meta tag is going to tell our browser what type of character encoding to use. In this case, we're using HTML5, which is UTF-8, which allows us to use pretty much every character in the world, including other languages. Now, the meta tag is really good for search engine use. So one of the things that search engine is going to come for, it's going to check your H1s to check the structure of your page, but it's also going to use this metadata to help structure your page and tell the user what it is they're searching for and to find the appropriate content, all of that stuff. This description meta tag is going to give us the ability to tell our browser what our page is all about. It's like putting the title tag inside of there, but it's going to be more specific. Our keywords help tell us what users might type into the browser to search for that relate to the page that we're building. If I was building a blog, I would want to use the keywords that I use inside of that blog to let my search engine robots know, hey, this is the content that you might be searching for that's relevant to this page. The author tells them who created it. The viewport meta tag helps display your content inside of mobile devices better. So if you know that it's going to be accessed by mobile, you should always include this meta tag. Viewport content equals width equals device width, initial scale equals 1.0. This HTTP equiv meta tag is going to be used to help me refresh the page every 180 seconds. If I wanted it to refresh every 5 seconds, I could do so like this. Now let's take a look. So now I've refreshed my page, and every 5 seconds it's going to refresh itself. And you can see that happen up here every 5 seconds. It does a little blip. The base tag is self-closing, and it's going to specify a base URL for all relative URLs in my document. And inside of this tag, it's important to have either the href or the target attribute or both, and one of those must be present at least. So now I've gotten rid of the page refresh meta tag, and I'm going to use my base. And if you look at the image path down here, I have my root followed by my images folder, and then another / to lead me into whatever images I want. If I wanted every single relative path to start from the root and go into my images folder because I knew I was only loading images on this page and nothing else, then what I could do is I could take this piece, cut it out, and put it into my base element and then paste it and refresh my page. It's going to know exactly where I want it to go. And that makes it easy to create another image where I can go in and pick out one of these different images. So now I've got Matrix DevBert as my second image, but our base tag is going to automatically go to our root, find our images folder, and then start searching for the file that we want to find. Refresh our page, and beneath this image we have our other image. So last thing we're going to discuss is omitting boilerplate elements. So we can omit or leave out the HTML head and body tags and still produce valid code. The problem is if we're trying to access the way that we've structured our page, also known as the DOM, and try and change anything within that, you'll find that it can be a challenge or it may cause errors or crash. Same thing with XML software. If we're trying to use anything that contains XML, your browser isn't going to read this correctly. But if you go into your browser and take out the HTML head body and you create an H1 with your name followed by a paragraph that simply says whatever it is that you want. And here you go, you got your HTML and you got your paragraph, and nothing is broken here. And that's it in this video. If you have any questions, as always, leave a comment and I will make sure and follow up as soon as possible.